Yeah.
I apologize, I haven't prepared slides for today's presentation, but some of the things I'm going to talk about were approved last night by the Council of Ministers, so I couldn't have, at least for allow me some superstition when it comes to increased funding for research in Italy. Thanks a lot for citing my old book. It's not that old, which was identifying the lack of innovation as one of the key drivers of the Italian decline in the 20 years, roughly in the last 20 years. Yes, economic decline has somehow ended, and Italian economic performance is now on the positive in the last couple of years, but this is clearly not enough. And I'm really happy to, a matter of combination, this meeting happens just the day after the Council of Ministers approved some important measures to strengthen research in Italy. I would like not to dwell too much. I have, I think, 15 minutes, and I'd like to keep my time. I'd like not to dwell too much on details. I will say something about the two main elite measures that we've taken yesterday, i.e. the so-called NATA chairs and the Human Technopole, which eventually will get a name as an institute. Human Technopole is the name of the project that was written that supports the idea of this new infrastructure. First, because I'm not a hard scientist, so I would say a lot of silly things. So it's better that Professor Cingolani will be more specific on the Human Technopole and other research projects, but also because what I'd like to convey to you today is the ideas that are underlying these two measures and the rest of the Italian policy for research. So the obvious, and I'll say, I apologize in advance because I'll say a lot of obvious things for many of you. I've been myself an Italian researcher working abroad, and many of these issues are, sometimes it's beating a dead dog, something that has been said so many times that it almost presents itself as an obvious truth. Yet, the fact that Italy needs more research, needs more and a stronger environment of researchers, freer researchers, and it needs that the part of its research that is part of the global citizenry of researchers is more clearly recognized, are upon the top priorities of this government. Now, roughly speaking, and for the sake of brevity, there are two main issues with the Italian system of research. The first is that the public research in Italy has been constantly underfunded for many years. And given the state of Italian outstanding public debt, and given the state of sluggish growth more or less everywhere in the world, nobody could expect this trend to be radically changed overnight. Yet, it's about time we start inverting this trend. But the second conviction is that adding more resources is not enough. That the construction of a working and healthy and productive and integrated globally system of research requires more than only more money, although money is a precondition. Thinking about the US or thinking about the UK or other countries where research has and innovation had better success than Italy in the last 20 years, one finds both elite research and diffuse good average of research that is produced in other centers. One finds small research centers that are able to feed competences, skills, maybe ideas, to larger research infrastructures that develop that critical mass that is necessary, both to produce certain type of results and to match the expectation of the most ambitious researchers. Because we all know that researchers tend to follow their own dreams and go to there where they can pursue their research. And what we see now in Italy is a system in which we have a lot of excellences, but they are not treated as such very often. They haven't treated as such at all by the research policy for decades. And we do have a very good system that produces good researchers. And this is testified by associations like this one. But there is very little researchers from abroad that the system is able to attract. So it's not really a problem, only a problem of brain drain, that it might be a problem, but it's mostly a problem of lack of brain circulation, so that there is little going on in Italy that is able to attract people from abroad, with the exception of some humanities, because you can't really move the Colosseum. And this explains, I would say, the three main, and by main, I'm talking here in terms of resources that, given the current state of public resources, we are devoted to this by the government. So the first is the so-called NATA shares. There will be a first batch of 500 high-level scientists, which will be paid as associate or full professors more than the average pay that is now going on in Italian universities. And they will be selected by, of course, Italian professors, but with a qualified presence of professors that don't work in Italy, both as a signal to the former applicants, I hope many of you will apply to these jobs, and as a certainty that this is a meritocratic process aimed at increasing the level of very high-skilled researchers everywhere, in every discipline. Of course, 500 people in Italy is a little number, but you have to start. And the second measure is the one that was cited already several times, known as human technopole, which will be, once completed, after the process of completion will be finished in about 3 years, will be the single, I think, largest research institute in Italy on the broad field of life science, which includes data science, genomics, oncology, nutrition, and also decision science, which will be in Milan and has the aim of being a building and block hub that opens up to the rest of the world. Next to the Human Technopole, or however the institute will be called, there will be the undergraduate and graduate students of the State Milan University in Hard Sciences, which will be there next to them. And there will be a relatively large space still to host some other private industries that will like and decide to invest there. The objective is to, as I said earlier, have Italy on the topic of life science, one of the key countries of the world. And this is leveraging on what it's already there, because on many of these topics, we have a lot of Italian scientists doing great work already. We have Italian hospitals that on many dimensions are leading globally in numbers and in performances. And we have an underlying culture that is friendly, so that receives friendly, a type of research devoted to improve quality of life, improve results on medicine, and all the issues that are linked to the aging of the population. And concluding on this, I must underline that more resources than the one I just mentioned were put on budgets on all the other universities, focusing on the highest performing departments, which will, again, increase personnel, stable researchers across disciplines in many other universities in Italy, so that this is a system that feeds different parts of the system that feed each other. The effort we're making, therefore, is upscaling human capital in Italy, particularly that devoted to research, with the idea that this will feed and trickle on many different parts of our society. The effort we're making, and the effort on which I think cooperation with an association like yours is vital, is to make sure that All these efforts are correctly understood abroad, but are also correctly understood in Italy by those who will have to live with a system in which you have people earning different salaries, which is the norm in the US or in the UK, but it's totally new thing for Italy. Different facilities at your disposal, which is the normal thing in many other countries, but it's quite new in Italy. And this dialogue for us is extremely important for the success of this policy. I have to tell you that I was an academic in the UK before deciding to accepting the invitation to come and try and give a hand to Italy and go back to Italy. And the amount of dysfunctional bureaucracy that goes on in our country is really beyond imagination. And of course, part of the efforts that the government is making is to improve the system so that as time goes ahead, there will be less and less problems linked to this. I mean, I know that bureaucracy isn't nice anywhere. It's not that American bureaucracy is great. Bureaucracy is always bureaucracy, but in Italy, the cumbersomeness of procedure is so deep that each of these measures that I've discussed and briefly described you took months and months and months and months of work to be nailed down. And this partly explained why we are starting explaining and dialoguing and talking to researchers and industry just now that they're done, because we wanted to be sure that they were done before we were claiming things. But this part will be the most important and the most challenging. Thank you very much.